Thank you. What I figured we'd do today is I'd start off with a brief overview of what we're going to cover, and I'll just go down that list, and then go through sales aspects of athlete representation. How do you sell, and which aspects and which components do you sell in the industry? And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, I can answer those. Sports management. What is it? It is the hot industry in America. We live in the show me the money era. Shows like Arliss, movies like Jerry Maguire, they glamorize the industry. There's a certain romantic appeal of working with professional athletes and being involved in sports, and that's why all of you are here today. My background, as Sam mentioned, I was born and raised in Canton, Ohio, which is kind of ironic because that's where the Pro Football Hall of Fame is located. I went to Notre Dame for undergrad and for law school. I was an accounting major at Notre Dame, graduated summa cum laude with a 4.0 in my major. Went straight through for law school and practiced law in the city for 4 years with two of the top firms in the country. I gained an excellent skill set in terms of negotiation, worked on various agreements, outsourcing, licensing. It's back when the internet started blowing up in the late 90s, the 2000 era. Co-branding, marketing, getting my feet wet, gaining great experience and a great skill set that could translate over in my work for players. How did I meet my first clients and why did I start the agency? I sort of fell into athlete representation. At Notre Dame, when I was in my second year of law school, I used to go down to the rec center and play a little basketball. And where I'm going with this, we're going to come back to and circle back at the end, about taking advantage of every opportunity you have to make a difference and to follow your dream. So my opportunity was becoming friends with some of the Notre Dame football players at the time. They'd come down to the rec center in the off-season, we'd play some pickup games, we developed friendships. They knew that I had accepted a job offer to practice law at one of the top firms in the country in New York. And as our friendship developed, they asked me to become certified through the NFLPA, which I did. So I started representing my first clients that way, but at the same time representing only Notre Dame players on the side. And as I was doing this work, every year thereafter, Notre Dame player I was representing would have a teammate who wasn't looking for the glitz or the glamour, wasn't looking for the 100-person client list, but was looking for somebody who would do right by him on the contract, but more importantly, be somebody he could trust. So after 4 years, I began doing some soul searching, representing only Notre Dame players on the side, but realizing that, A, I had an aptitude for the work. The skill set that I was gaining in my work at my firm was translating over into the contracts I was negotiating for my NFL clients. That was my first realization. Second realization was that I loved the work. Working with young men of character to achieve a common goal, to achieve a dream. Using the Rocky Balboa analogy, it's sort of like you're being his Mickey and preparing him for his fight, the biggest fight of his life. So after some soul searching, I decided to burn the ships, so to speak. There's no looking back. I launched ETL full-time in 2003. We feel very fortunate to be where we are today, having never swayed from our vision about representing young men who have the talent to play on Sunday afternoons, but more importantly, who have the character off the field. After this draft, we should have 14 active clients in the NFL, and I can sit up here, or stand up here, excuse me, and say with no hesitation whatsoever that we are the most up-and-coming agency in the industry. And I feel very thankful for Sam for the opportunity to come here and speak today to you about sports management, and more specifically the sales aspect of sports. The different components that you wear as an athlete agent can be boiled down to several different categories, and I call them hats. As an athlete agent, on any given day, you are a lawyer, you're a negotiator, you're an accountant, you're a financial advisor, you're a bodyguard sometimes, you're a publicist, you're a confidant. Now, depending upon your religious affiliation, you're either a priest, a minister, or a rabbi. You're also a concierge, a spokesperson, a big brother, and a friend. And finally, and the reason I'm here today, You are a salesperson. Selling is key in all aspects of running a successful sports agency. For example, in recruiting and signing players, the first thing you should do is identify and pitch the competitive advantage that your agency offers to that individual player, to that recruit, or his family. You need to realize and understand where your competitive advantage lies, and that is the first thing you pitch to that player and to his family when you sit down in that living room and you meet with the player. For us, we always talk about best of both worlds. That is our competitive advantage. And let me explain that. We say that ETL is the best of both worlds because we can offer the same resources, the same facilities, the same expertise, the same impeccable credentials of the management team that you would find at the IMGs, the Octagons, the big corporate conglomerates of the world. So you will not sacrifice the skill set, the expertise, and the access to resources that you would have at these large corporations. However, unlike those large corporate conglomerates, with ETL, you'll also have the same personalized attention 24/7 with the principals of the company who will be there for you for all matters, business-related, life-related, whatever. That is the best of both worlds. That is our competitive advantage that we pitch. Having access to the best, but also having the personalized attention that you will not find at a large corporation. So when we pitch that, we can adapt that to any circumstance or situation. If we know that our competition in signing a player is a smaller agency, then obviously we're going to pitch having access to the best resources, having the expertise. Now that our client list is approaching 15, mid-teens, we can pitch having a somewhat substantial client list. Now, if our competition is a large corporation such as an Octagon or a CAA, then we adapt the pitch to talking about personalized attention, what we can offer a player in terms of being there, not having a 23-year-old intern handling your matters because you're not Peyton Manning, you're not LaDainian Tomlinson. You can adapt this pitch to your needs, depending upon the competition. So that's the best part about it. Now, one thing you should do when you recruit a player, we always like to illustrate and ingrain the key selling points of our company with real-life examples. For instance, contract negotiation. We pitch that as one of our key components of our competitive advantage. In 2002, we were the first agency to negotiate 53-man roster salary for a practice squad player. The player was Tyreo Harrison, 6th-round pick of the Philadelphia Eagles in 2002, was released in October that year. We used legitimate interest from another NFL team to make a lateral move to another team's practice squad as leverage to get him his 53-man roster salary. He was on P squad for 4 weeks with the Eagles before he was signed back up to the 53. In that 4-week period of time, Tyreo made $36,940 more than what he would have made on his minimum practice squad salary. Another example, in 2007, we represented Deion Anderson, 6th-round pick, fullback for the Cowboys. We had just about negotiated the contract. The I's were dotted, the T's were crossed. Negotiated for the Cowboys. Todd Williams sent me the signing bonus default language. Now, signing bonus default language means that for every NFL team, regardless of what they pay you when you sign the contract, that signing bonus, they're going to insert addendum nowadays to require you to pay back either a portion or all of that signing bonus if you do something, and they like to use the term conduct detrimental to the team. He would have to pay back his signing bonus for incarceration or conviction for a felony offense. Now, I looked at that language and I said, you know what? For me, it didn't sit right. And I looked at it again and again. I said, you know what? The word that sticks out at me is incarceration. Incarceration. In this society, a man or a woman is considered innocent until proven guilty. That is a basic principle of our legal system. And I could look no further than real-life sports figures such as Ray Lewis, Kobe Bryant. These men were incarcerated for felony offenses, but were later exonerated and acquitted by a jury of their peers. With that example in mind, I went back to Todd. I said, Todd, I cannot sign this in good faith because of that word, incarceration. I want you to remove it And Todd was exasperated. We were about 5 days from training camp, and he said, you know what, I cannot remove that. We've had that for all of our contracts. Tony Romo has that. Terrell Owens has that. And I said, Todd, with all due respect, I'm not representing Tony Romo. I'm not representing Terrell Owens. This is my client, and I'm going to stand by him and do the best job possible. So we went back and forth for a couple days until Todd finally came to me with something called course of dealing. Course of dealing is a legal principle which basically means that outside of the four corners of an agreement, it gives you legal precedent that you can rely upon to a certain extent. It means that if a team has a history and a pattern of doing things a certain way, and you rely upon that for years, they can't reverse course all of a sudden and do things totally different. The Cowboys' course of dealing was that ever since Jerry Jones purchased the team in 1989, Jerry Jones never went after a player's signing bonus, ever. And there's an example. There's a defensive back from Tennessee, second-round pick of the Cowboys, I believe, in 2001, Dwayne Goodrich. Dwayne Goodrich was convicted of vehicular homicide in 2001. Jerry Jones did not go after his signing bonus. He's still serving time. So with that information, that assurance in hand, I felt comfortable enough to sign that contract. Networking with NFL contacts, that is key, and that is where you sell yourself. Networking leads to goodwill. Goodwill is the lubricant that not only greases deals that you negotiate with teams, but I call goodwill the fuel that gets you there in the first place in terms of getting feedback from NFL contacts, whether it be a scout, a coach, a GM, a personnel director. Networking is key. The sales component with networking is selling yourself. When you go out there and you're fresh in the agent industry and you're trying to make relationships and establish relationships with NFL people, carriage, presence, and appearance are key and will ultimately determine your credibility with that person. How do you carry yourself? Do you walk with confidence? Do you pronounce your words succinctly? Do you enunciate well? Do you look people in the eye when you speak to them? Do you have a firm handshake? These are all components of selling yourself when you network and you establish relationships with NFL people. Once you establish this credibility with an NFL representative, whether it be a scout, a coach, personnel director, or a GM, you can then leverage that credibility into different areas. And again, sales is important in these other areas. For instance, once you have that credibility established with these NFL contacts, you can then use that credibility to market your players. We're doing our best to market our draft-eligible clients to NFL teams. We're relying upon the goodwill we've built, the relationships we've established, the credibility we've gained to network and to market our clients to these NFL teams. Now, when you do that, whether it be a draft-eligible client or a veteran free agent client that you're marketing to a team, you are essentially selling your player to that NFL team. You need to emphasize and begin each discussion with that NFL team with areas of strength for your client. For instance, height, weight, speed for a player. If you have a linebacker, we have a linebacker this year from South Florida, 6'3", 231 pounds, ran a 4.52 on natural grass at that pro day down in Tampa on March 24th. That is a huge area of strength. So any conversation I have with an NFL team running a 4-3 defense, I'm talking up his height-weight speed ratio, which is off the charts. I think his 40 time would have been the second best at the combine, and he ran it on natural grass, which is the slowest surface by far. That is the first component. The second that we like to talk about, sustained productivity. When you market a player to an NFL team, does he have a history of performing at the highest level at a major D1 college? Has his numbers, have they gone up at an upward slope? Has he started for 4 years? Has he produced consistently? Intangible qualities is another area that can be a strength for your client when you market him to NFL teams. Is he a leader? Has he been named team captain? Is he intelligent? Has he made Dean's List? Has he been on honor roll? Has he been on an all-academic team? Is he involved in charitable work? Does he visit hospitals? Is he involved in Big Brothers, Big Sisters? Those intangible qualities can be a huge asset with all things being equal when you market a player.